Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. And we are now set for our next session, which will be about robots and us. Who will be doing what tomorrow? So please stay seated.
Esther Baldwin serves as an artificial intelligence strategist for Intel Corporation. She has spent over 25 years at Intel, including 3 assignments to China and a startup in the UK, Japan, and the USA. In parallel with her corporate responsibilities, Esther is an Eisenhower Fellow and has actively supported the business community and charity events. William Tunstall-Padot is an entrepreneur with a focus on artificial intelligence. He most notably founded the UK startup Evi, which specialized in natural language understanding and automatic question answering. Currently, he's helping many other AI startups as a mentor, advisor, and investor.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Thank you, William. Thank you, Esther, for being here, for joining me for this discussion. Artificial intelligence and robotics means different things to different people. When I think of it, I think of iRobot, autonomous beings walking around and fighting for their right to be part of society. Others see it as a leap to the next developmental stage for humankind. However, nowadays, and I think this is probably what we're going to focus on today, a lot of people are worried about jobs, worried what does it mean for me, especially for young people also. They're thinking about, okay, what does it mean for me in terms of the type of jobs I should be looking for. There have been studies, and I think there's a wealth of studies that give conflicting results on it. One of them says it's a study of 15 countries, and it says it sees a loss of 7 million jobs and the creation of 2 million jobs. And I'll wonder to see if our panelists would agree with that assessment. But I think, to get us started, the first thing we need to do is define what we mean by artificial intelligence or robotics indeed. And I'd like to ask both panelists, and starting with Esther, to kind of give her view to frame kind of discussion of today. What is it that we're talking about?
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to be here today. So robotics and artificial intelligence have many different meanings to different people. And artificial intelligence is nothing new. We know people that have degrees in this from the 1980s. It's only in recent research breakthroughs that have made more natural language processing and image processing possible. But the robots seems to be a topic that engenders more fear that will take people's jobs away, or that they may be dangerous, etc. And I think it's important to frame what is a robot. I mean, if you were here on the first day, you saw one of the entrepreneurs outside with a phone that was in a Lego setup, and the Lego moved. So, robots can be from a very small automated device all the way up to something that is much more sophisticated. The question would be, for autonomous vehicles, is that a robot? A human is now inside the autonomous vehicle and it is driving the person around. Is that a robot? So I think that there's very different descriptions of what robotics are. There's 2 different research areas for this that are challenging. One of them is navigation, which artificial intelligence has made breakthroughs through to make more things possible. But the other one is handling and grasping. And we're still a very long way away from that being able to surpass a human.
William, so we're not going to see iRobot beings walking around anytime soon. We're far from that. Would you agree?
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think there's, as you say, there's artificial intelligence is largely computers starting to do things that previously only the human brain could do. So it's things that computers have typically found very difficult, like being able to see, recognize what they're seeing. But there's been some recent advances, and those have enabled computers to be able to start doing things that previously they weren't able to do. So diagnosis of medical imaging, for example. Autonomous driving is a great example. You know, to drive, you need to be able to see where the pedestrians are, where the other cars are, where the edges of the road are. If you can't do that, you can't drive. But computers can now do that. So, you know, so we now have a world where there's a very good chance that cars will start being able to drive us around without a human driver needed. And that does have an impact on jobs. That is an example of AI replacing jobs. There are millions of people employed as drivers. But for diagnostics, that's an example of artificial intelligence creating a tool which can be used by existing professionals. So it can mean that doctors, it isn't going to completely replace a doctor, you're still going to see a doctor.
Right.
But the fact that the doctor has a tool that will do the diagnosis or help with the diagnosis makes the doctor more effective.
So the doctor can actually spend more time with the patient rather than
more time with the
patient
and see more patients maybe as well. So part of it's about augmenting humans, which doesn't necessarily have an impact on jobs, although jobs will change.
Right.
And in rare cases, it's about replacing humans. And that will have an impact on jobs, but then maybe there will be other jobs that replace.
Well, I mean, this is kind of what I'm wondering. It's not like it's the first time in human history that industries get changed. Horse and carriage was an industry, a huge industry, and it's disappeared. And there are many examples of that. If you look at agricultural jobs in the US, they've been declining for 170 years. Manufacturing jobs peaked in 1979, have been declining ever since. However, services jobs have been rising steadily for a very long time. So, Esther, what's the difference this time? Are we just panicking? Will there be new jobs, or?
I don't think there is any difference. You know, from the first industrial revolution until today, we've been talking about augmenting humans, making it easier for them to do their jobs, and it's really very much a conversation around automation. And if you look at labor productivity, it's defined by the goods and services that are being produced and the hours that it takes to produce them. Well, I don't know anybody that's working less hours today than they did 10 years ago or 15 years ago, other than France, which has designated a shorter work week for people. Most people are working the same number of hours, and so it's really a shift in what we are doing. And even the example of drivers. You know, will drivers' jobs go away? Some of them will, but if you look at the user experience for why do people take a taxi instead of take the train? I have a train stop that is very convenient that goes from my home to the airport. Why would I take a taxi? Because the user experience I'm looking for is somebody to help me with my bags.
Right.
I don't want to sit on the train in public transportation in the very early hours of the morning or late at night. There are some people that like the prestige of having a driver. They're going to still have a driver. And so, you know, jobs will change and they'll migrate to new
But some will get lost.
Yes.
I'm not sure I completely agree with that. I agree with the fact that there's been change for hundreds of years, and automation has been part of that. I think one difference between the change that we saw, I don't know, in the 19th century or the early 20th century now is the pace of change. I think there's plenty of evidence that the pace of change is increasing. So, you know, the farm jobs example you gave, that was over many generations.
Right.
And I think what we're seeing now is things happening more quickly. Yeah. So it isn't necessarily clear that new jobs will replace the replaced jobs as they have in the past. I mean, we don't know that. It might do. But we don't actually know that. I mean, and the remedy is to you know, keep learning, be part of this change, you know, become part of the technological changes that we're seeing, and continuing to learn new skills and continue to learn so you don't get left behind.
So let's talk about those new skills that, you know, what would you recommend? I mean, we have a young audience here. What would you recommend they learn? There's initiatives to get kids to go into coding more and programming. Is it as simple as that?
So I think, as I said, I think being part of the you know, there's nothing you can do about the technology change that's happening. It's going to happen regardless of whether you're part of it or not. If you're not part of it, then there's a chance that, you know, you'll get left behind.
Right.
If you are part of it, then you can help drive it forward, and those jobs are not going to be replaced by technology because they're the jobs that are creating the technology. So yeah, and continuing to learn. I think in general, it's very hard to know where technology is going, where the breakthroughs will be, which technologies will take longer than people think, which technologies will happen more quickly. But if you continue to learn, if you continue to keep your skills up to date, continue to educate yourself, continue to adapt as things change, and also the more advanced jobs, the senior management jobs, the jobs that involve sort of complex management of people, that involve technologies, that involve entrepreneurship, those are definitely going to be the last ones to be replaced by machines. The simpler jobs, the less skilled jobs in the past have been the ones that have been more prone to automation.
Esther, you had an interesting point. We talked earlier about the coding. You said, no, it's not just about getting more people to code because AI can already do some of that.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So we're already seeing applications where artificial intelligence is doing coding. And so, I trained as an engineer, and if I look at the advancement in automation over the life of my career, I used to have to learn how to do manual drafting. I don't have to do that anymore because of high-performance computing and simulation. But the bottom line is that engineers like to solve problems.
Yeah.
And being able to solve a problem, you have to be able to frame the problem. And I think that that's a crucial skill that humans cannot be replaced for. What are the problems that we want to apply artificial intelligence to solve? And then I think one of the other skills that is critical is the theory of inventive problem solving, which was a Russian patent officer who noticed the patterns of patents that were coming across his desk. And so for engineers and even non-engineers, the ability to do this type of pattern recognition and say, what is the problem? What's the question that we're trying to solve? And can we use artificial intelligence to help us do that so that we can move on to the next problem? And so I think it's an extremely exciting time for youth today, and I absolutely echo what my colleague here was saying, is that I think there's two things critical for success, and it's desire and opportunity. And it's very apparent that the leaders of this country are providing the youth with opportunity. The question is, do the youth have the desire? And when you match those two together, you cannot do anything but be successful. And the desire to learn and to keep that curiosity and a lifelong learning is a critical skill for human beings.
So, William, education seems to be then a key part of what what needs to be done to prepare the youth. Do you have any advice on what needs to change in the education system globally, especially here, of course, to prepare the youth better for the change that is definitely coming?
So I studied computer science.
Right.
I think computer science is the ideal preparation for artificial intelligence and all of the automation that we've been talking about. Engineering as well, is related discipline. So yes, there's the classic education, which is excellence in computer science and engineering.
Yeah.
But I think we're also talking about continuing to maintain your skills, even after you've graduated, even after you've started a career, continuing to learn about developments. As I said, the pace is accelerating. So, what was impossible for computers 5 or 10 years ago is now possible. So it's not just about formal education, it's also about continuing to stay on top of technology developments, how they impact your business, how they impact your job, staying on top of that, learning it, seeing how you can apply artificial intelligence to your existing business. An awful lot of the businesses, I see hundreds of artificial intelligence startups from what I do now. An awful lot of the artificial intelligence startups I'm seeing are taking an existing business and applying artificial intelligence to it. Right. Fish farming. Yeah. Taking a fish farming business, applying artificial intelligence to it, optimizing the feeding, looking at the fish, seeing how big they are. Any business you can name, you can apply new technology to it to make it more efficient.
So the idea being more efficient, more productive. Productivity is a big part of this equation. Productivity also makes things cheaper. Is that kind of the get out of jail card for society, as it were, that, you know, things are cheaper, wealth rises, hopefully there's more opportunity to do other things like leisure. So, I mean, one of the things also, what other jobs other than technology, I mean, not everybody has the aptitude for that. I mean, are there any other areas that you can see developing going forward as productivity rises with increased automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence?
Yes, so if you think about the time that we have, how do people like to spend their free time? And Moore's Law and the history of Intel has all been about reducing the cost of computing to average people, and that cost has been driven down dramatically through technology and through competition. And so that's made it affordable to a wider group of people. Now, people's disposable income typically has not increased. They have the same disposable income, but now because of cost reduction, they're able to buy more things. And with automation, I believe that the same thing is going to happen across products of every kind, so that people will be able to have a richer life because they can buy more things that are available at lower cost. The pace of development is something not to be ignored, though. What I've been telling people in my innovation workshops is that you have between 3 and 6 months from idea to somebody else taking it to a product. And I can give example after example of this, especially in China. You have about 3 to 6 months, and so you have to move quickly. And there has to be an infrastructure to support entrepreneurs that want to start their business so that they can use the incubation and get the type of support with legal and financial things. But media and entertainment, people are going to spend their free time looking for media and entertainment. Those are the jobs of, one of the jobs of the future. We saw the virtual reality being used as a training tool. This is a combination of technology and learning. A great opportunity right now in every single industry.
Well, we're out of time, unfortunately. It's a fascinating subject. I enjoyed talking to you guys on stage and also before off stage. So, I mean, to sum it up, I think it's not as simple as human jobs are going to disappear and machines will take over. New opportunities will arise, especially in areas where there's human interaction, in jobs that are not mundane, routine, have mundane or routine elements to them. However, yes, the pace, I think we can all agree, is something that needs to be looked at, and to ensure that people have a chance to catch up and keep up with the technological change that's coming. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening.